This week in the Eastern Conference has been an absolute whirlwind, as the latest blockbuster move we have is Jrue Holiday going from Portland to now Boston, joining his former rival in the Eastern Conference. And Jrue, like many of you guys know right now, he's 33 years old, kind of on the back end of his career, but with plenty of gas left in the tank. As last year in 2023, he was an all-star and had his best scoring year since 2019. And many forget Jrue Holiday, on 6.1 attempts from deep, a career high in attempts, shot 38% from behind the arc. It is kind of cliche to call Jrue Holiday a 3-and-D player, but he fits that bill pretty effectively. And for a long time, Jrue, in his New Orleans days, early in Milwaukee, he was kind of underrated. But now going to 2024, the cat's out of the bag and it's an open secret. This guy is a top 10 defender, and in most people's books, the best perimeter defender in the entire NBA. And for the Bucks' 2021 championship, Holiday, he was a big part of that and debatably saved them at numerous points in that run. Versus Brooklyn numerous times, versus the Hawks, and especially versus the Suns in the finals, having numerous clutch plays on defense versus Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Now, one thing I've seen with Jrue Holiday watching the Bucks a lot of times, this guy in the playoffs, especially from game to game, can be highly erratic shooting the basketball. As on Tuesday, he'll be Ray Allen 2.0 going 14-20 with 5 threes. But by Friday, will be Smush Parker going 4-19 with 5 turnovers. Offensively speaking, Jrue Holiday, he is fairly consistent, but has some nights where he couldn't put a beach ball in the ocean. But the one upside to that, playing with Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, all guys who are elite scorers. All this guy has to do is playmake and lock down on defense. And fortunately for Boston, Holiday's defense, unlike most players, is highly consistent. And if you want to do a one-to-one comparison, Jrue Holiday versus Marcus Smart is a definite upgrade over Smart. And pairing Holiday with Derek White, this defensive backcourt debatably might be the best in the NBA. And having Tatum and Brown on the wings, there is no excuse for Boston not to be a top 5 defensive team at the worst. Now, of course, when it comes to a trade, there's positives as well as negatives. And after this trade, I'm kind of concerned about Boston's depth and their front court fragility. As of course, you have Kristaps Porzingis, who is 7'3", theoretically should be a good defensive player. But if you watch Porzingis, he's kind of wiry, not intimidating, and defensively doesn't provide much. And going against Embiid, Giannis in the playoffs, that's barbecue chicken every single night. Compared to someone like Rob Williams, who Boston did lose. Rob, at the very least, could slow these guys down and at least limit them slightly. And for Porzingis, much like Rob Williams, this dude is injury prone virtually every year. As last year in Washington, yes, he played 65 games, but the downside, that was his most games played since 2017 pre-ACL. Meaning Porzingis is a lock to miss anywhere from 20-25 games at minimum. And looking at Porzingis' backcourt mate, you have Al Horford, who I absolutely love. But for Al, you gotta face the facts. This dude is 38, staring down 40, and last year's playoffs had a pretty noticeable drop-off on the back end of that run. Specifically from 3, as in the last 10 games of playoffs, shot only 20%, in the previous games was upwards of 35%. So when it comes to the Boston Celtics backcourt and their depth, I'm a little lukewarm on them, and it's kind of shaky. And if you wanted to declare a quote-unquote winner of this week, was it Milwaukee getting Dame, Boston getting Jrue? I think it all comes down to one thing, and it's pretty simple. Which guys are healthy, and which guys are not? And looking at Boston, yes, they got rid of Brogdon and Williams, who are injury prone, but replaced them with Holiday and Porzingis, who's also injury prone. Unfortunately, in 2023, the NBA really comes down to a couple of things: shot making, defense, and overall health. And teams like the Bucks, Celtics, and Heat, more times than not, whoever's healthy will come out on top in those matchups. Now, by far the biggest loser of the week had to be Heat fans and Jimmy Butler, as all summer long, They were courting Dame, wanting him in South Beach, and it was an open secret league-wide. And the Heat, they really put everything on hold, going all in on Dame, putting their eggs in that basket. And when you don't get Dame, when you're 100% in on him, Pat Riley quite literally got left at the altar. And to compound that, not only did the Bucks get better, but also Boston got better. This offseason for the Heat was a big, big whiff. And even worse than not getting Dame, Boston getting better, their core supporting cast who helped make the finals last year is all but gone. And I think before this week, most fans would agree the Eastern Conference was a 3-team race. Boston, Milwaukee, and the Heat in any order you want to pick. But after this week, I think it's a pretty clear 1A, 1B with a distant 3 in Miami. So if you ask me right now in this moment, Boston, Milwaukee, who's coming out of the East, who's winning that series? As much as I love what Boston did with Holiday, I'm still taking the Bucks and Giannis in a hard-fought 7-game series. And why I lean towards Giannis and the Bucks? Number 1, Giannis is the best player in that series, and number 2, Dame is the best fourth-quarter clutch-time player, also in that series, playing for the Bucks. And what it really comes down to is Giannis being a bowling ball and the Celtics being bowling pins. As again, their front court is incredibly weak. And seeing Porzingis, who's built like a light pole, and Al Horford, who's a senior citizen, that is barbecue chicken for Giannis every day of the week. And looking at Boston's so-called Big Four, that being Tatum, Brown, Jrue, and Porzingis, at least offensively, all these guys have a little bit of a stench of inconsistency. And for someone like Porzingis, has he played a single game in his career that is meaningful in the playoffs? I really don't think so. And look, I'm not saying the Bucks would wash the Celtics, because they also have holes in their roster. But out of 100%, I'm 55% Bucks, 45% Celtics, assuming everyone's healthy, which they probably won't be. And looking past Giannis versus Boston's front court, you also have Jrue Holiday and Derek White versus Dame Lillard. That right there is the key to the series and really determines who wins this matchup. Because Giannis, he's going to get 30-35 points relatively easily. But if Jrue and Derek White can limit Dame, slow him down, that's a big time boost for Boston and can swing the series in their favor. And when it comes to the overall championship at large, looking around the Eastern Conference and the West, realistically, I could see 4 different teams win the championship this season. And when it comes to winning back-to-back championships, nobody's done that since the Warriors in 2018. And as good as Denver is, as good as Jokic is, I think that trend of no back-to-back champions continues in 2024. So that right there is the end of the video. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.